Welcome to today's episode on The Layover. Today is a very special show for me because I have one of my good friends, Ms. Darrylyn Swift, coming on. Darrylyn is an African-American female born and raised in the States, Kansas City to be exact, living in Atlanta as well as California. But she took the plunge and moved over to Europe about 4 years ago, Paris in particular. So she's going to come on to the show and talk to us about all things Paris, her dating life in Paris, the financial scene, as well as the social scene and the climate and everything. So welcome to The Layover, Ms. Darrylyn Swift. Hey, Darrylyn, how are you?
I'm good, Craig. How are you doing?
I am doing well, all things considered. I am great. Great. Yeah. So I'm glad you had some time in your busy day. I know life of a consultant, just entrepreneur, just woman in general. I know it's just like so much going on for you right now, so I'm glad you took time out your busy schedule to jump on and talk to me.
Oh, I'm glad you asked me. And yes, things are just really busy right now, especially with, COVID-19 and my clients trying to help them manage through that, because there's a lot of heightened emotions around that and people have to manage that with their staff. So yeah, it's been pretty busy.
Yep. I can imagine. But I definitely want to bring you on because, like I said, I just got to hear all about, some perspectives from you, from African American female living in Paris and all of that. And I think that's one of the things that's going to make this show, this episode, so special. We'll get right off into it. All right.
Okay, that's good.
But before, just do me a favor and drop all of your social media info for me. That way, if people need to get in touch with you, they'll know how to.
Okay. My main social media, I have 3. LinkedIn, of course, and it's Darrylyn, Darrylyn Swift _snapshot training, and that's my LinkedIn. My Instagram is snapshot _ TA, and then my Facebook is Darrylyn Swift and the Snapshot Team.
Darrylyn Swift Snapshot. Got you. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool. All right. So look, we're going to get right off into it because I know you're busy and I just really got a ton of questions that I want to ask you all about, like, some of your travels and currently where you live and all of that good stuff like that. But if you don't mind, so like, Darrylyn, where are you originally from?
I'm actually originally from Kansas City, Missouri. I usually tell people
really now.
From it.
Okay.
Yes, I tell people I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I tell people I'm from Oakland, California. But truth be told, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised.
Right. Everybody wants to be from the A. I get it. But Kansas, yeah. So wait, Kansas City. That's barbecue. That's the cheese.
Absolutely. Gates barbecue for sure.
Right. I hear all about that barbecue in Kansas City. Yeah, okay. Amen. All right. So you said from Kansas City, but you lived in A. You also mentioned California. So obviously you do some traveling. And I know that's just domestic, but I know you do a lot of traveling abroad too. So talk to me about how did you get into traveling?
Well, I got into traveling as a young kid. I was raised into a traveling family. So growing up, we had an RV and my parents had us on the road at least once a month. And by the time I was, I guess, about 14, I had already traveled to 48 states with my parents. Because
wow.
That's
14?
That's something that my mother was very, she wanted us to experience the world, but she was, just on the domestic side. And literally, if we watched TV, she wanted us to have been to the places we would see on the TV screen. So
now that's hot. I like that.
Oh yeah. So we've been to all 48 states with my parents. So with my daughter growing up, I did the same thing. Whatever she studied in school, I'd take her there. If she was studying about the legislature, okay, Friday, let me pick you up from school and off we go driving up to DC. Because I wanted her to do the same. So that became the norm for us. And when she graduated from college, my gift to her was a trip to Europe. And that's when the international traveling began.
Nice. And, it's funny you say that because, like with the whole, you see it on TV, let's go see it. That's one of the reasons why, like it's a plethora of reasons why I like traveling. But one of the reasons why I like to travel is because, like you said, you watch movies and you see things, and then to actually go to those places and be like, oh, this is where Tom Cruise was. Oh, hey, this is
Exactly.
where so and so was. Stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like that's one of the things that made me fall in love with Paris, because one of my favorite movies is The Bourne Identity.
Oh yes,
And that
yes.
whole Bourne series.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, with Matt Damon. And remember, the first movie, they shot a lot of those scenes in Paris.
Okay.
Pont Neuf. All of
Uh-huh.
that good stuff
So
like
now
that.
now
Yeah.
I'll have to go look again. And another thing, I love that I raised my kids traveling, because now my daughter, she and her husband, they're raising my grandson to travel. He's 15 years old, and believe it or not, he's tired of going to Paris, because he's been there about 15 times. And I told him, you're the only 15-year-old that would say you're tired of going to Paris. But what was
Right,
interesting
right.
to me, when he was, I think it was about 9 or 10, I asked him one day, I said, like, what's your favorite place in the world? And he thought for a minute, and he said, I think Istanbul. And then he was able to articulate exactly why he liked that versus other places. Or on
Right.
his what do you call it, spring break, they'll ask him, where do you want to go? So a couple of years ago, he wanted to go to Rome to see the Colosseum. So that's where we went for spring break. So I love that it has just trickled down over the generations.
Nice. And I love that too, man. I think that's, you catch them when they're early, you put that travel bug in them when they're young, and then they'll just be forever gone.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And then, like I said, with him having been to Paris 15 times, I mean, I don't want to say I feel him, because I don't get tired of Paris. I've been there like 6 times, and I don't mean like 6 times on connections. I mean
Right.
like 6 times on the
Visit.
ground and time and all of that stuff like that. And I love Paris. I mean, it's easy to
Exactly.
get around, it's easy to navigate, and that's one of the reasons why I brought you on here,
Mhm.
because of Paris and all of that. So, and since we're talking about Paris, I just got to ask you, what made you want to move to Paris, and how long have you been there?
So I've been there 4 years. I moved there 4 years ago, and people ask me that question, and sometimes I don't have a good answer for them, because I'm just very adventurous. I think there's a little bit of wanderlust in all of us, and we all want to see a different part of the world, and we want to get lost in an undiscovered or new culture. And since I've been traveling internationally for about 20 years, and I've been to so many places, but I fell in love with Europe in general, not Paris
Right,
specifically, but Europe. And I actually thought I'd
right,
move to London because it would be easy, with the language. But I fell in love with Paris, the food, the culture, the architecture, the ease of life, um, the antiquated way of living that kind of takes me back to times when relationships and socializing were more important than the hustle. And I talk to people, and they say, well, I don't like Paris because Paris is not as clean as I expect it to be, or the food is bland and it doesn't have enough spice, or the people are rude. But when you look at the romance of the city, the museums, the parks, the flaky croissants or the corner
mhm.
cafes, like, when you visited and we were, just sitting out at the cafe, just,
Oh, I love that.
talking it up, and
Yeah.
people are walking by and coming in, that is the everyday, all day type of interaction. And I love that. And I got swept up and in that. And I just appreciate the overall culture. And I fell in love. So 4 years ago, I sold everything: my clothes, my car, my house, my
Wow.
furniture, everything. And I left Oakland, California, and I moved on to my new adventure, which is Paris.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And New Adventure was Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. And you're right. Like you said, when we were over there and we were sitting down, and we were just having a grand old time, just
Yes.
sitting at dinner. And I love that people can just do that inside,
Uh-huh.
outside. And then the one thing I love about Paris is how it's broken up into the arrondissements.
Uh-huh.
So, and I love it because everyone has its different
Has a
flavor. So you
different
can be
type of
like in the eighth.
yes.
Right, exactly. You can be in the eighth and it has like this particular flavor or this culture. And then you can leave the eighth and go over to the
Mm-hmm.
11th, and then it's
Right.
different. And although it's still Paris, it's just like a whole different flavor altogether. So that's one of the things that I love about Paris. And then I like that, like you said, I love Europe
Mm-hmm.
because my final destination is most likely going to be Barcelona.
Mm-hmm.
Because I absolutely love
Yeah.
Spain, and then the whole lure of Europe and being
Hmm.
able to catch the train
I
everywhere or
know,
cheap
2.5
flights and
hours, 3 hours.
and travel.
Yeah, you're there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love Europe for that reason. So I can definitely understand what you mean about
Hmm.
Paris and all of that. Or, having been in France and then loving Paris and all of
Right.
that stuff like that. So I get it.
Right.
So you say you've been there 4 years,
Hmm.
right? So let me ask you this question. So, as an African American woman, born and raised in America, so American Black woman living in Paris, can you tell us about some of the times, or can you tell us if you've ever experienced any type of racism?
I personally have not really experienced racism. And I do see blacks everywhere, and everyone has different experiences when I talk to them. I do hear about it often enough to know that it's there, it does exist, but I think it also might be based on a class system. Um, yeah, I
Right,
think it's based on a combination of race, but also with class. So I feel that racism is there, but it's much more subtle. And because the government doesn't really track any racial demographics, it's hard to quantify that. But I do see, I see two sides of it. I see where France loves their black entertainers, the musician, the artist. You go to any cafe in France, they're playing hip hop music across their
oh,
race
indeed, or
or
jazz
jazz.
and all of that good stuff
Exactly.
like that. Yeah, we're talking about that deep rooted jazz, like that black
Yeah,
jazz. That
exactly.
stuff that's us. So yeah,
So
yeah,
they love the black culture, even if they don't verbalize it. It's also
gotcha.
interesting to me that when you're French, you're just French. You're not African French like here in the US, you're African American. You're not
Right,
Chinese
right.
French or Japanese French, you're just French. And I think they do that to try to not have the separation. So France
Right.
doesn't verbalize that type of separation the way Americans do. But I also hear some of my African friends specifically speak about the discrimination they face when they utilize like
Hmm.
social services of the government. And I think there is a difference between the African experience and the African American experience. I think we're looked at
Oh yeah,
differently for sure. So,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. That happens in other countries too, because there have been times where, like, I had buddies in my, like, I've been to Dubai, and I got a buddy of mine. He used to live in Abu
Hmm.
Dhabi, and he used to say how, like, a lot of times he would go places, and like, let's say if he's in the line in the store or something
Hmm.
like that, with some of the Emirati women, they would come in and they would just jump in front of him. But then the minute he's like opening his mouth, like, excuse me, and then they realize, oh, wait a minute, he's a Western black, then they would kind of bow down and get out the way, because they thought maybe he was African. So, yeah, so I get what you're saying about how the African, black people versus the westernized black people may be treated a
Yes.
lot different or a little
Yes.
different or whatever
Yes.
that may be. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. So, we talked about like classism and all of that, and that's something else I wanted to touch on, because I know, like, when we were there and we were sitting down, we were having dinner with you, my aunt and I, we were talking about a lot of stuff that I kind of want to delve into, and and I know I'm going to have to put you on another show so we can talk a lot about it, some of that
Okay.
stuff. But one of the things I wanted to kind of talk to you about was or so you can share with our listeners, like, what are some of the differences, like with housing and finances over in France, versus like the States
Oh,
and all.
well, it's very different. Um, Finances. Okay, let me break it down. In the
Okay.
US, we live off of credit quite a bit. In
Hmm.
France, you either have the money to buy or you don't. So they have debit cards, but the use of credit cards is not it's almost non-existent, because you use the money.
So you're saying it's like not a lot of people walking around with
No,
Visa and MasterCard over
no,
there, man?
people don't carry
Really?
credit
Okay.
card debt like we do in the States. You use your debit card, either you have the money to buy it or you don't. They will extend
Okay.
credit to you for 3 months on almost any large purchase. When I first moved over there and I had to buy furniture for my place, because my place came furnished, and I'll talk about the how to the mortgage system in a minute. But my place came furnished,
Okay.
but I didn't like it, so I got rid of it, and I had to I got to do my own little flair. So I remember
Right. That's
I
that American in you
hey,
right
I
there.
can't
You know what I mean?
change that. So I remember going
Right.
to buy my sofa, and the guy said, do you want to break this up in payments? And I said, uh, can I? He said, sure, I'll give you three payments. And I said, okay, that's fine. And then I changed my mind. I said, no, because I want to take it with me. I want it delivered this week. And he said, oh, it can still be delivered. Now, there was no credit application or anything. That's kind of the way they do business, kind of more of an honor system
Right.
than you would ever have in the US. Now, trust me when I say, if you abuse that, there's some kind of list that you're going on so that everybody's not, so you're not just
Right.
going
Right. Right.
scamming everyone.
Yeah.
But they're just much more open to giving that type of an honor system to people. Because I've had several places that I've gone to. 3 months is typical. Do you want to put this on your, that's the kind of credit that they have, that they allow to, or the
Right.
financing that they'll allow. Now, when it came to time for me to buy my place, there's no, so I have a social security number there, but my
Okay.
social security number has nothing to do with my credit. That's my health care number. That's my health record number. So,
Right.
yeah, it's very different. There's no social security number for credit. My credit with my bank was based on my relationship. There was no
And
walking
you're talking the bank over there in France, right?
Yes, the bank in
Right,
France.
right.
There was no
Okay.
walking in there and saying, I'd like to fill out a mortgage application. What's your underwriting requirements? Is there an automated underwriting system? That's not how it was
Right.
4 years ago.
None of that.
No, it was not. If they've adopted that, it's been since the last 4 years with my bank, because it was
Right.
based on the relationship. My banker said, I want you I need to see how you have money and you're spending money over the next 6 months. And then we can talk about you getting a mortgage. And that's
Okay. Okay.
that's kind of what he did. So I asked him, well, what would happen if you just didn't like me? He kind of chuckled and basically said, you'd have to find another banker. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
things are based
So it's
on
all relationship based, basically.
relationships. Yes, which
So
I
so let me ask you this.
appreciate.
So
Mhm.
for that 6 months, were you staying like in a rental for 6 months?
No, so I ended up with a sweet situation because I went through a real estate agency, and they contacted the owner and told her what was going on. The owner happens to be American, who American woman who lives in Florida, and she just hadn't been to Paris, and rich woman, she just hadn't been to Paris in about 10 years, and the place had been kind of abandoned. So
Oh
we
wow. Okay.
Yes, so we came up with an agreement where I would rent it from her for the a period of time that I was working with my banker.
Okay. But she was in Florida while you were there renting it from her, right?
Yes, she lives in Florida. She lives in Florida.
Okay.
It was their little pied a terre to get away to for her and her husband. And 10 years ago,
Yeah.
her husband got sick, and they haven't been able to travel since. And she finally decided, let me just get rid of this place. And I'm the one who happened to be fortunate enough to find it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because I know you mentioned that, your banker was like, well, hey, let me just see what your spending habits are for
Mhm.
6 months. So I'm assuming like if you were renting somewhere, couldn't you just use your rental history or just like say, okay, well, I'm paying my rent for the next 6 months to this particular person. You can use these receipts to show like my history. Or do you have to like they want to show like purchases that you're making, like, I'm going to buy a shirt or I bought some tires from a car or stuff like that.
No, I did show, how much I was paying to her, and the mortgage was 300 euros more, so they knew that I could pay it. But I think they just want to see
Gotcha.
that you're fiscally responsible, um,
Yeah.
and that's it. That you have money that's going into savings as well as coming into your checking account. That you also have money that you save, and that you just have sound financial practices.
Right, right. That makes sense.
Hmm.
So are like jobs and stuff like that over there comparable? For example, like a project manager over in France, would they make the same that a project manager would make over in the States, or
Now that I don't know because I don't work over there. So this is the
Okay,
beauty.
okay,
This is the beauty of the world we live in now. Is I have been working from home for 20 years. I've been working from home for 20 years.
nice.
And then when I retired from Deloitte, because I retired from Deloitte in 2010 as a senior manager because I didn't want to be a partner. And I
Right,
started my own consulting, and I quickly built the practice so that unless I need to come in, most of what we do is through, it used to be Skype, now it's Zoom. So but
got
that is really interesting though, because I live in France, but I work on Atlanta time. So I
right.
don't go to
Which means you're usually up all night over there.
exactly. And most of my clients
Right,
are in California. So my clients might call me at, 5 o'clock their time, and I'm answering the phone like, hello. Because
right,
I'm
right, right,
asleep. Yes. So it's quite
right. You know,
different.
you got vampire hours, right?
I do. I do. I do. But I've gotten
Right,
used to it.
right.
I've gotten used to it.
I got you. So let me ask you this. So you say you've been over there 4 years. It sounds like you're really entrenched and
Oh,
all of that
yes.
stuff like that. So I just gotta ask this question.
Okay.
How's the dating been, like living in Paris versus the States? Yeah, I gotta get that in.
Well, what is that, first of all?
Okay, so like just simple. Like how in the States,
Dating, huh?
and I spent time in Paris, so I know a little bit, but not as
Uh-huh.
much as you. But
Uh-huh.
in the States, like you can get off work, you can go to happy hour, you can get you a couple of drinks, and then while you're out, some gentleman may come up and hey, let me buy you a drink for you.
Mhm.
You guys sitting, talking, chopping it up, and all that good stuff like that. Exchange numbers, and then start the process of dating. So how is it like over in France? Because I know, like I said, it's Paris, and I know, like you said earlier, that hey, they love our culture and all of that stuff like that. They may not blatantly say it, but I know that they do. So how's it been for you since you've been over there for 4 years? Like, have you found love in Paris or what?
No, I have not found love in Paris. However, I will at some point, because it is the city of lights, the city of love, and people. I think people like relationships. I see a lot of people in relationships. It's not that I have not been approached. I've been approached a few times. I had one young man chase.
I bet you have.
I had one, believe it or not, I had one young man chase me down like 2 blocks, and he's running behind me, Madame, Madame. And finally I stopped, and he's out of breath asking me out for a date. Yeah, they will.
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, no, yeah, no. So, I mean, they will definitely approach you. What I like
Right.
about relationships that I see in France in general is it's not as bound by any type of race or age, or people just like who they like. So you might see an older gentleman with a young woman, and then they have a young child, and it's not looked at any differently than
Right. It's not frowned
no,
upon like it is over
no,
here.
not at all. Or
Right.
you
They're not
see
judged and
an
all of that.
older woman with a younger guy. Maybe I'll fall in that category. We'll see. You might find an older woman with a younger guy and nobody's paying attention. Or I also like that when I see white men with African women, they're African women with the African features, and they love that about they love the beauty of the dark skin and the bold features of African women. So I think that
Right,
people
right.
are just open there. So I'll find love at some point. I haven't been
Yeah,
paying
yeah.
attention. But what I do know, and what I have paid attention to, is I find men to be a little more of a gentleman in Paris.
Over
Yes,
there.
more so than I do when I'm in
Okay.
the US. So, for instance, one day I was at a restaurant, and as I stood up to put my coat on, there were three gentlemen having a conversation out off in the corner. And without missing a beat, one gentleman stood up, helped me put my coat on, and then he went back and sat down to finish his conversation with his gentleman
Right,
friend.
right,
And there was flirting
right,
involved. He was just simply being a gentleman, and I like that. I
right,
find that more obvious there than I do here. And I
right.
like that.
Like he wasn't trying to
Not at
push
all.
up. Like he wasn't like, hey, putting the coat on and then like, I need your number
No,
right after this,
I would giving it to him, but no, that's not what it was about. That's not what it was about at all. It was just him being a gentleman. And
Right.
so I do like that. And of course, he was a little bit older. And I don't know if the younger men are being raised that way in France, but I appreciate that.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't appreciate that? I mean, I totally understand exactly what you're saying because it was just a nice
Exactly.
gesture, so I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Hmm.
Well, look, I'm gonna let you get out of here, because I know you got a lot going on. I know I said it at the top that you're like superwoman and you live in bi-coastal and you got a lot going on. But before I let you go, I just got one
Yeah.
question for you that
Yeah.
I gotta ask you, right? So one last question. So you've been in Paris 4 years. You've been around the States, like from the Midwest to the Southeast to the West Coast and
Hmm.
all of that. Is Paris it for you, or do you ever see yourself coming back?
Coming back. So I have a home in Atlanta, and I will
Right.
maintain my home in Atlanta. However, Paris is not my final destination. It might be. I might keep my place.
Dig
I
that.
might keep my place in Paris. I at some point in time plan to live in Africa. I haven't quite determined
Hmm.
where in
I love it.
Africa, but I will definitely live in Africa. When I moved to Paris, I said I'm going to move there at least a year, and if I don't like it, I'll leave. And I don't look at moving
Right.
somewhere I don't like it and I leave. That's not failure, that's adventure. So I will try. I'll
Yes, it
try
is.
someplace
It
else. Yes,
absolutely is.
and it will be somewhere in Africa. I just don't know where yet.
Man, I love that. I absolutely love that, Darrylyn. I mean, and I love that you took time out your busy schedule to talk to me. Like I said, I've been chasing you. I've been chasing you because I wanted to get you on here so I can talk about Paris. And I got a ton of listeners that are going to love hearing all this stuff that you got to say.
Well,
So
we
I really
connected. We
appreciate you jumping on.
connected.
I do.
Yes.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. We did. So check it out. Before I
Mhm.
let you get out of here though, I know you gave me all of your social media stuff up front, but I need you to give it to me again, because sometimes we have a few latecomers on the layover,
Okay.
so, I want you to go ahead and just drop that out again for
Okay. So
everybody.
my LinkedIn is Darrylyn, Darrylyn Swift hyphen snapshot training. My Instagram is snapshot underscore TA. And my Facebook is Darrylyn Swift and the Snapshot team. Yeah.
I love it. I appreciate that, Darrylyn. And I'll make sure I put it out for the listeners again so they can make sure they, can reach out to you if they have any questions, because I'm pretty sure they'll have a ton of questions for you. Because I got a lot of people that hit me up all the time, asking about what is it like to live abroad and all of that stuff like that. And that's why I had to get you on
Yeah,
here. So I really
let me
appreciate you taking
let me
time out
say
your busy day to
this,
get on
and
here.
then we'll go.
Sure.
And I'm glad you reached out to me. But let me just say this: people dream about living abroad. They talk about living abroad, and I say, do it. Like, there's no reason for people in general to be afraid of living a dream, and it's better to try it for a year and decide you don't like it than to never try at all. So, the saying, nothing beats a failure but a try. So if you think about
That's right.
living abroad, find out, do the research, find out the best place to try. And it could be, some place that you speak English, people speak English, so it'll be easy for you. Whatever it is that you need to make
Yep.
yourself feel comfortable, give it a try. Give it a try.
Yep. You are preaching. Don't nothing fail but a try. I got you. I mean, you are absolutely right. Yep. So, Darrylyn, I appreciate you coming on to the layover. And like I said, I definitely got to get you on here again so we can talk a little more in depth about that whole
Yes.
financial
Yes.
situation and banking situation and all of that good stuff like that. And then you and I got some property talks that we need to have anyway.
All right.
All right, Darrylyn, you have a good evening. I appreciate you
All
coming
right.
on
I'll
to the
talk to you
layover,
soon.
okay?
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
I want to thank Darrylyn for coming on and talking to us all about her Parisian life. I love it how she just broke it down, everything, talking about her dating life, talking about what it takes to purchase property, as well as finances, old school relationships with bankers and things like that. I thought that was great. If you like what you've heard, please check out more episodes on my website at www.thetraveljunkie.com. And there you'll have more access to content, blogs, video clips, and some planned group trips that I have in the future. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the Layover podcast so you never miss an episode. Just so you know, the Layover is produced by me, the Travel Junkie, and you know my mission here to connect travelers from all over the globe, whether you're a seasoned traveler, solo traveler, or a person living abroad, or a novice looking for insight and information. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Layover.